Hello, this session is called The Foundation of Understanding the Four Elements. It is also the introduction to the Elementally Speaking Tarot Interacts with the Elements course. Much of today's understanding of the elements as we know them is thanks to the classical philosopher Empedocles from ancient Greece. Empedocles was born 490 BC and he died 430 BC. His wisdom created the foundation for further understanding and formed the theory of the four classical elements. At this time, Empedocles named the elements roots and gave each one of them a mythological name. Later, they would become known and referred to as the elements. So the roots, according to Empedocles, is earth, fire, air, and water. Interestingly, each of the roots were given a Greek god's name as well. So we would have Hera, the root of earth, Hades, the root of fire, Zeus, the root of air, and Nestis, who is Persephone, the root of water. Empedocles recorded most of his philosophy in poetry that he carved into stone, and at the time this will have been the only medium of writing. One of his most well-known writings is an extract from a poem that he composed about the roots. The extract compares the tears that were shed by Persephone to the water element. The ancient story is that her tears flowed because she was being forced to marry Hades, who was a god of the underworld. So here is the extract. Now hear the fourfold roots of everything, enlivening Hera, Hades, shining Zeus, and Nestis, moistening mortal springs with tears. It's a great way to help people relate of that day. These will have been very known gods and topical stories that were talked about and known. So we move along the timeline now to Aristotle, who introduces the elemental qualities. Aristotle was born 384 years BC and lived until 322 years BC. Now he further developed our understanding of the elements. He introduced the principle of the four root qualities of the four elements, another word that could be used to describe the qualities of its properties. Properties are hot, dry, wet, and cold. I just want to also mention that adding to this timeline for the understanding of the four elements, Plato, another great Greek philosopher, who was born 427 BC and died 347 BC. He was also a teacher and mentor to Aristotle, and he is thought to have been the first person to refer to the roots as elements, and he also gave explanation how one element can transform into another element. Now looking at the PDF resource, on this page that we're discussing at the moment, you will see a chart which has the elemental symbols for fire, earth, water and air, and next to the symbols we have some characteristics. So for fire we've got behaviour, it's masculine and active, and we have earth, which is matter, feminine and passive, and water, emotion, feminine and passive, and then we have air, which is thought, masculine and active. So as you can see from the chart, fire can be hot and dry, air can be hot and wet, water can be wet and cold, and earth can be cold and dry. And looking a little bit further at how they behave, we can see water is emotion, feminine and passive. Earth is matter, feminine and passive. Fire is behaviour, masculine and active. And air is thought and masculine and active. And as we move along to the next two charts, which is sitting under the title Characteristics of the Elements. So fire is also passionate, determined, motivated and intense. Air is also logic, communication, intellect, rationale and breath. Earth is also practical, stability, health, finances and resources. And water is also spiritual, empathy, dreams and intuition. Now, of course, there's so much more than that, but these are just some keywords to give you an idea. Looking now just a little bit further, a little bit deeper at the understanding of Empedocles' theory of the roots, he believed that without the moving forces of love and strife, life itself is not present. He described harmony as unifying, whilst chaos drives apart. These active forces bring change and they create. This theory is the basis of part of how we look at our interactions of the elements within a tarot reading. It's very similar. We can look at a 3-card reading consisting of 3 water element cards. Can we expect to see movement? I doubt it, no. You wouldn't see very much movement at all with 3 water cards. It's very passive. If we have 3 fire element cards for a 3-card reading, we will see a complete burnout. So without the addition, there's no changes, there's no movement. Imagine just for a moment the number 5 cards in the minor arcana. They are very known to bring conflicts and challenges. Now, these are the kind of things we're talking about when we mention chaos. Something that shakes things up a little bit and brings transformation. So this brings us to the conclusion of the resource for your first session. The questions and mentoring will help to develop your understanding of this introduction.